In this lesson, we're going to explore something that's brand new to CorelDRAW X4. Now you can actually create tables in your drawings. And tables are a great way if you need structure for adding text and graphics, for example, and you want to organize it nice and neat on your page. So we're going to create some tables now, a couple of different ways using this file that I've already opened up called tables1.cdr. If you've got the exercise files and you want to follow along, you'll find this in the Lesson 3 folder. This is a 2-pager. If you look down below, I'm on page 1, pretty much blank except for my title, Parts Inventory up here. And if I flip over to page 2, you'll notice that I've got the same title at the top, Parts Inventory, but down below I've got some paragraph text that's already been entered, and it's separated. You can see I've got item numbers, very difficult to see right now. We'll zoom in a little bit later when we convert this text into a table. Really cool feature. But let's go back to page 1. We're going to draw our table and we're going to put it right underneath our title, Parts Inventory. All we need to do is go over to our toolbox where we now find this tool here, the Table tool. Giving it a click changes our property bar to show us things like the number of rows and columns we're about to create. We can change backgrounds and border attributes. There are other options hiding under the Options button. But right now we're going to set up our columns and rows before we draw our table by simply clicking and dragging. So the number of rows, I'm going to bump this up to 5. I'm going to take 5 rows, and I'm going to need at least 4 columns for my parts inventory list. So I'm going to bump that up as well. Of course, I could come in here and just type in the numbers that I need. So we want 5 rows by 4 columns. Now all we have to do is move into the drawing area right here on our page where we want the table to go, and click and drag across and down. And you can see I'm actually drawing my table using the exact number of rows and columns that I've selected already from the property bar, and when I'm done, I release, and there's my table. Now there are certain defaults that kick in here. For example, you'll notice that every single row is the exact same height, every column is the same width, and these are all things that we can alter. So let's go over to our zoom tool here because we're going to be working with the table. I'm going to zoom into my title and table area here by clicking and dragging with my zoom tool to encompass all of that. So here we go. We're ready to start entering information into the table, and then we'll make some adjustments to this table. So I'm going to go back to my pick tool here. You'll see the table still selected. It's just like any other object. I can move it around if I wanted to move it up using the 4-sided arrow. If I wanted to stretch it, make those rows a little bit taller, I could do that. If I wanted to squeeze it in or stretch it out, I've got all of these handles just like working with any other object. But when I come in here and click inside the table, actually double click, you can see I've got a flashing cursor now. And up at the top of my property bar, I've got my font options. You can see Arial 12 points is my default. I have all of those font attributes I can apply, including the horizontal alignment. So I would like to change this to centered. So whatever I type in that cell will be centered. My flashing cursor now moves to the center. Same thing for the vertical alignment. That button's right up here in the property bar. I want to center this vertically as well. So give that a click. And now I'm ready to start entering my text. So in here, let's just type in item number. And that font and that size seems to be okay. We might make some changes to it a little bit later. Now if I click in this cell, you can see it's back to the left-hand side, top left corner. So it might be best if I click and drag over all of these cells to select them. Now those 3 cells are selected. I could have selected the entire row. And if I want to make all of those cells formatted the same way in one step, you'll notice that I've lost my font attributes up here on the property bar. So in this case, I need to go up to text and be able to format those paragraph formatting options by clicking paragraph formatting. Now over here on the right hand side in the Dockers, you can see I've got alignment, horizontal, there's none, vertical is set to top, but we can change those to center and center. And then we can close up that Docker by clicking the close button and click in the next cell where we want to start typing. Look at the cursor flashing right there in the middle. Here's where our description is going to go. And in the next cell, I can click and type in quantity. I'm going to just type in QTY for quantity. And when you hit the Tab key, typically when you're working with tables, whether it's in a spreadsheet application or in another application where you can create tables, hitting your Tab key usually moves you to the next cell. And you can see when I hit my Tab key there to move to the next cell, I get the Tab key options dialog box showing up here where I get to choose what's going to happen when I hit the Tab key. Will it insert a tab character into the text? No, I'm working in a table. Or will it move to the next cell? And I want it to move to the next cell. That's what's selected. The tab order is going to be left to right and then top to bottom. So it's going to move through my table as I hit my Tab key. So I'll click OK. Now I'm in the next cell, ready to type in cost. Now when I hit Tab, you can see it just moves me to the next cell down here. Now I'm thinking these cells should also be centered for the item numbers. So I'm going to click and drag from this cell all the way down, and I'm going to change my options again by going up to text and paragraph formatting. With that docker there, I'm going to change the horizontal to center, and the vertical, I'm going to put it at the bottom. There we go. And now when I click under item number to start entering my actual item numbers, they'll be centered 0001. I'll hit Tab, saves me having to click. Description, that's fine. Descriptions could get lengthy, so starting on the left is fine for this particular description. Let's type in HDMI cable. I'm going to put in a dash here. Let's start with a 10-foot cable, and we'll hit our Tab key. The quantity or the amount that we have in inventory, I'm going to just type in a number 23. I'm going to hit Tab, and the cost for those 10-foot cables I'm going to set to $25.99. I'm not really formatting anything at this point. I'm going to hit Tab to move on to the next one. Let's do 0002 and tab over. We'll do another HDMI cable here. And let's do a 15-footer. And the quantity, we only have 16 of those in stock, and they're a little bit more expensive. We'll go to $45.99. So you got the idea, and probably what you're seeing here is that I don't really want equal columns. My descriptions will probably get longer as I get into some of the other parts in my inventory. Quantity here, I really only need a skinny little space for that. Same thing for the cost. So now it's time to start making changes to our table appearance. And we're going to go right into the middle of our first two columns here. And you can see when I touch that border, it turns into a double arrow pointing left and right. So I move over to the left to squeeze that column over to the left. Creates a little more space for my description. I'm going to go between the second last and last columns here when I see the double arrow. I can drag that one over to the right. Quantity, I can drag that one way over to the right as well. And you can see now I've got lots of room for my descriptions. Some simple changes that allow me to change my column widths. So now I can click down here in this cell. Let's try another one, 0003. Hit Tab. Let's do an SVG cable. 10 foot. Tab over. Let's put 22 of those in stock. And they're a lot cheaper. We'll do $10.99. So that's creating a table from scratch, pretty much just using the table tool to create the table and then making a few minor adjustments along the way. There's lots more we can do with tables. If we take a peek here at the table menu, you can see we can create new tables from this menu. We can insert rows and columns if we wanted to. We can select rows and columns. We can delete rows and columns or the entire table. And then there's this distribute option to distribute rows or columns evenly. That's what we started with, so we wanted to go back to that. We could. Another option down at the bottom will allow us to convert this entire table to paragraph text, so removing the borders, so to speak. So I'm going to click down here in this last cell, and that closes up my menu. And let's say we wanted to create a shading for our top row. Well, all we have to do is select the top row. If I click anywhere up here in the top row, it doesn't really matter what cell, and go up to Table, down to Select, you can see I can select the entire row. And when I do that, it shows up with those diagonal lines to indicate it's selected. Now all I have to do is go over to my color palette. Let's put in a nice light gray here for the background. We'll click anywhere in the table to deselect that top row. You can see I've changed the appearance. Another way to select an entire row is just to move over to the left edge. When you see your I-beam turn into an arrow, just double click, or one click will do the job actually, and select the entire top row here. And now if I want to make a change to perhaps the text, maybe it would be good if it was bolded. Well, I could go up to my text menu if my Docker's not already open for character formatting. Give that a click, and you can see I've got Arial normal as I scroll down, character effects. We're going to get into modifying text a little bit later on in this title. I've got some options here for formatting if I wanted underlining, strike through, uppercase the position, but I'm just going to come up here. I'm going to click this little drop down and choose bold. I get a real-time preview. I like it, so I click. Deselect the top row by clicking anywhere in the table itself. Shift F4 is going to take us back out so we can see the entire page and the effect of our table. Now we're going to move over to page 2 down at the bottom. Here we've already got text, so I'm going to click on my pick tool up here in the toolbox. I'm going to select this paragraph text by clicking on its border and go up to my table menu now. Maybe I should zoom in first, so I'm going to click my zoom tool. Let's just zoom into this area right here. And when I go back to my pick tool, you can see that this paragraph text is still selected. And now I'm going to go up to my table menu and choose Convert Text to Table. Now, just before I click on this, take a look at the text. You can see item number, description, quantity, and costs are all separated by commas. Same thing for the actual item numbers and the descriptions down below. Each of them separated by commas. That's called a delimiter, and it's important when we choose Convert Text to Table now. We have to choose the separator, and you can see some options include commas, tabs, paragraphs, which are basically just people hitting the enter key, or user-defined separator. So if I decided dashes was going to be the separator, I could choose dashes by choosing user-defined and typing in my dash right here. But commas is what's being used, so we'll keep it at commas. Click OK. That didn't take long. We've got our table. And you can see the column widths are equal, the row heights are equal. All of that can be adjusted. We know we can go inside a table here and start working with those column borders. I'm going to double click to get inside any cell. And when I click and drag item number over and cost over to the right, same thing for the quantity. I'm starting to get the look I'm after. You can see now all of that description text is starting to show up. I'm going to go to my pick tool. I'm going to click outside the table. And there's a quick way to create a table if you've already got the contents. And let's double click inside the top row. One click here with our arrow showing on the left border. We'll do a little bit of shading here with our light gray. While we've got character formatting open, let's change the bold option. Maybe it should be centered. So I'm going to close up my character formatting docker here. And if you don't already have the paragraph formatting docker open, go up to text and paragraph formatting. We'll change our alignment here to center and center. Some quick and easy changes to our table to make it look good. Back to the pick tool, click outside the table to see the end result. So if you've worked with tables in other applications, maybe you've used WordPerfect, Microsoft Word, maybe Pages on the Mac, for example. All of them allow you to work with tables. Now you can do it here in CorelDRAW, and you can see much of the techniques you use are exactly the same as working with tables in those other applications. So experiment with this new feature in CorelDRAW X4, tables.